Foreign policy is rarely just about geopolitics. Often it is a mirror reflecting our deepest psychological drivers, our moral frameworks, and our understanding of history. Few topics illustrate this better than the polarized response to Donald Trump's approach toward Venezuela during his presidency. His administration adopted a policy of maximum pressure, utilizing severe economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, and open rhetoric about regime change to dislodge Nicolas Maduro. While many supported these actions as necessary steps against authoritarianism, a significant portion of the population strongly opposed them. Today, we are not here to debate whether Trump's policies were right or wrong. Instead, we are here to understand the psychology of those who oppose them. What drives someone to reject intervention against a widely criticized regime? Let's dive into the mindset of non-interventionism. The first major psychological pillar for opposing aggressive pressure on Venezuela is a deep-seated historical trauma related to interventionism. For many observers, particularly those familiar with Latin American history, U.S. involvement triggers immediate alarm bells. The psychology here is rooted in pattern recognition. They look at the history of U.S. actions in the region in Chile, Guatemala, Nicaragua, and others, and they see a recurring cycle where foreign interference, even under the banner of democracy, often led to instability, violence, or military dictatorships. For individuals with this mindset, the principle of national sovereignty is paramount. It is a psychological commitment to the idea that a nation's internal struggles, no matter how painful, must be resolved by its own people. When an external power like the U.S. steps in with aggressive posturing, it violates this core psychological tenet. The opposition isn't necessarily support for Maduro. It is a rejection of the idea that the U.S. has the moral authority or the practical capability to engineer outcomes in another hemisphere. If you are finding this analysis of political psychology interesting so far, please take a moment to hit the like button. It really helps these objective discussions reach a wider audience. The second driver is what we might call the psychology of risk aversion regarding warfare and regime change. This mindset is heavily influenced by the 21st century experiences in the Middle East, specifically Iraq and Libya. People who oppose Trump's rhetoric on Venezuela often operate under a cognitive framework that prioritizes preventing chaos over imposing order. They look at past attempts at forced regime change and see a pattern. Removal of a dictator is easy, but what follows is often a catastrophic power vacuum, civil war, or terrorism. Psychologically, these individuals are focused on the unknown unknowns. They fear that aggressive U.S. actions, even if well-intentioned, could trigger a refugee crisis even larger than the existing one, or ignite a prolonged regional conflict that the U.S. would be stuck managing for decades. Their opposition is rooted in a pragmatic pessimism, a belief that aggressive intervention almost always breaks more than it fixes. Furthermore, there is a strong humanitarian stance that drives opposition to maximum pressure campaigns. This is rooted in empathy and a focus on the immediate suffering of vulnerable populations. When broad economic sanctions are applied, the psychological focus of the opposition shifts to the average citizen struggling to buy medicine or food. The argument here is that while the goal is to hurt the regime, the reality is that the poor suffer first and worst while the political elite remain insulated. There is also an understanding of social psychology known as the rally round the flag effect. Critics of Trump's approach understood that when a nation feels under attack by a foreign superpower, internal divisions often disappear. People tend to unite behind their existing leader, even an unpopular one in the face of an external threat. The psychology of the opposition here is the belief that external pressure actually strengthens the dictator's psychological grip on the country rather than weakening it. We are about to wrap up this analysis. If you think this perspective is valuable, consider sharing this video with someone who enjoys deep dives into international relations. To summarize, the psychology of people who did not support Trump's aggressive stance toward Venezuela is complex. It is rarely based on a love for the existing regime in Caracas. Instead, it is constructed from a combination of historical memory regarding past interventions, a pragmatic fear of the chaos that follows regime change, and a humanitarian concern that external pressure hurts the wrong people. It is a mindset that values stability and sovereignty above forced democratization. Understanding this psychology doesn't mean you have to agree with it, but it is essential for understanding why foreign policy remains such a deeply divisive issue. We live in a time where it is very easy to judge people who disagree with us on major international issues, but usually their reasons are as deeply rooted in their values as yours are in your own. If this video helped you understand the psychology of a viewpoint different from your own just a little bit better today, then it did its job. If you appreciate content that tries to bridge these divides through understanding, please subscribe to the channel. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.